used for priority programs such as agriculture and the like.
Lawmakers agreed to hold the elections on December 2023 instead of later this year.
But the COMELEC says rescheduling the local polls would require an even bigger budget.
Because of the additional number of voters, we will create additional precincts. And because of the additional precincts, we'll be hiring additional poll workers, 3 poll workers per precinct. And because we'll be hiring additional poll workers, we'll be giving them additional honoraria.
Another move to postpone the Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections yet again. Congressmen say the reset will save government billions of pesos. But the COMELEC says on the contrary, this means extra cost to taxpayers. We discussed the issue in this episode of The Chiefs. And welcome to this Tuesday edition of The Chiefs. I'm Lingao. Online, Arana Pamintuan of the Philippine Star, who will be joining us in a few minutes. And of course, Luchi Cruz-Valdes, the head of News 5. Ay, bossing, magandang Tuesday to you.
Hi, Ed. Good evening.
Good evening. Anong malaking
happy
store natin
Tuesday.
today? Yeah, happy
or
Tuesday.
Let's see how happy it is.
Lumalapit na yung Biyernes so must be happy.
Yeah,
So,
I like your positive outlook as
What are the
ever.
what are the big stories that we've been seeing developing in the past 24 hours?
Well, yeah, apart from the topic that we're about to discuss, which is about the postponement, or at least the proposed postponement, yet again, for the fifth time na yata, yung
Barangay and SK.
barangay elections. Yeah. Apart from that, yung grabe yung Colegio de San Lorenzo ba yan? I'm sure you've heard about that.
Yeah.
No? Yung biglang
And on the first day of classes
for
pa.
Grade 11 and grade 12. I mean, yung senior high school students. That's,
And this is no small school.
No.
They have primary, secondary, and I think even tertiary. So it's not one of those run-of-the-mill hole-in-the-wall
right.
schools.
At saka parang pasukan na, Ed. Pasukan na. I mean, my youngest son is back in school, no? And they're doing this just now?
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
I suppose that is what raises so many questions nga na if you, and you would suppose that they knew ahead of time that they were in financial trouble, would they have made an announcement earlier, or were they intent on just collecting first a tuition before announcing
Terribly unfair, diba? I mean, tuition, Ed. Kumakayod ang mga magulang para lang makapagbayad ng matrikula. Saklap talaga nun.
Yeah.
And for the students, di ba, na parang, saan ka lilipat ngayon kung kailan grade 12 ka na, di ba? Graduating ka na. Ang hirap nun.
The first day, your first day in school, you're told that we're closed. Bakasyon ka agad. Diba? Sakap naman nun.
Yeah.
Of course, let's bring in our first guest tonight. As you mentioned a while ago, we will be talking about the proposed postponement of the Barangay and SK elections. So, let's bring in our first guest for tonight, Cavite Congressman Elpidio Barzaga, who also happens to be the Vice Chairman of the House Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms. Sir, magandang gabi po and welcome to the Chiefs. Thank you for joining us.
Magandang gabi rin sa inyong lahat.
Yes, sir. Sir, I suppose yung big surprise, kasi all this time that that Congress had been talking about postponing the barangay elections, that the presumption was that we will get to save money at itatabi ang perang yun for other important critical expenses. I suppose yung big surprise for many, I don't know about Congress, pero at least for us, was sabi ng COMELEC, hindi, mas malaking gastusin natin by 5 billion pesos daw kung magpo-postpone po tayo ng elections. Well, to begin with po, how do you react to that? Itutuloy pa ho ba itong postponement?
Well, firstly, ang budget lamang ngayon ng COMELEC for the barangay and SK elections, as mentioned in the hearing, is only 8.4 billion.
Opo.
And I have to be honest with you, I do not think that 8.4 billion will be sufficient for the holding of the SK and barangay elections for this December 2022.
Okay.
And
Why
let us
not?
go back to the national elections. Last elections, which we have last May. Last May, we have approximately 160,000 presents. In every precinct, we are paying the chairman 10,000 pesos. We are paying the poll clerk 8,000 pesos. And the third member, we have to pay 7,000 pesos. Conservatively, we shall be spending, or we have spent 30,000 pesos per clustered precinct.
Opo.
And that would amount already to 4.8 billion, not to mention the other expenses, most especially those pertaining to COVID.
Honoraria pa lang yan,
In the
sasabi
barangay
niyo.
and SK elections, I have to emphasize, number one, it is a manual elections. Number two, in every clustered precinct, there will be 400 voters for the SK and another 400 for the voters for the barangay. And theoretically, we have to double the 160,000 clustered precincts in the presidential elections as compared to the barangay and SK elections. And that
Okay.
would total 320,000 clustered precincts.
Okay.
At the rate we are giving 30,000 pesos, then you can just imagine that 8.4 billion will not be enough for the remuneration or allowances of our teachers and other persons who shall be manning the barangay and SK elections. And I think the COMELEC will confirm the figures which I have stated.
Yes, sir.
So,
No, but they came in there. Hindi ho ba nagpunta sila sa hearing on the
Yes.
assumption nga that the budget is really 8.4?
Yes.
So, kumbaga, that's already, as far as they're concerned, napag-usapan na yun, napag-ayunan na yun, okay na yun.
perhaps
So,
you can verify.
oo.
You can
Yes, sir.
verify with the COMELEC as to whether or not what I am saying is accurate or not. Because there will be more present sa barangay and SK elections. Because we will be voting for the SK and at the same time voting for the barangay. Ang butante sa bawat presinto, 400 for SK and another 400 for the barangay elections. So there will be more presence as compared to the number of presence in the last national election.
So because of that, you decided that it's better to postpone dahil
Well, definitely.
hindi kayo
No,
you don't think that it's going to cost only 8.4. It's not the point. You think that it'll cost
Yes,
more, and
and-
hence it's too expensive. So let's not. What? But what if the
no,
COMELEC
it's not
says,
the issue.
okay,
The issue is the practicality. Do we have sufficient funds to hold the election this December? If 8.4 billion will not be sufficient, where shall we get the additional billions of pesos to be used for the December 2022 barangay and SK elections? And let me also lay the premise. We are living in a working democracy. And whenever there is an issue, there are always two sides. And this is in accordance with the basic rule that we have to agree or disagree. We have to provide due process. In this particular case, many are claiming that so many are in favor of continuing the elections. But then what would be their basis? And I don't think that number is not that many. And I will be citing the reasons. Number one, for the first time in the history of postponement of barangay and SK elections, there are 38 bills sponsored by more than 40 legislators. Secondly, organizations like the League of Municipalities are in favor of the postponement of the barangay elections. Even the National Youth Commission is in favor of postponing the elections. And even the barangay officials, although you might consider this self-serving, they are also in favor of postponing the elections. And insofar as the records of the House are concerned, the usual watchdog in the election are the one objecting to the postponement of the elections. As a legislator and as a lawyer, I have been always saying that unanimity is not possible in a working democracy. What we have to consider is the sentiments of the majority, and based on these groups, together with the 38 congressmen, we are really optimistic that the sentiment of the general public, as represented by these elected officials, would be for the postponement of the elections.
Yes, sir. Sir, let's bring in Ana Pamintuan of the Philippine Star, who joins us tonight from Manila via Zoom. Sir, Ami.
Good evening, Congressman. Nabanggit niyo po yung budget kasi sinabi ng COMELEC allocated na yan for the year at sinasabi din nila, sinabi yan ng COMELEC chairman na kung ipopostpone yan well, apart from yung mga kaninang detalye, considering the inflation, lalo yung magiging mahal, hindi naman siya actual savings You are just postponing the expenditure.
Okay. Well, we are all head of the family. If we have 8 billion right now, shall we be spending it for an election? Or shall we use that money in addressing the basic problem of our society? And secondly, we are always thinking that COVID will be there forever. There is also a possibility that the pandemic might no longer be present by December next year. And what would be the effect? There will be a lot of expenses to be saved by the COMELEC. Number one, yung pagbili ng alcohol, pagbili ng mga and other health and other things for the basic health protocol. Possibly, there will be no social distancing. Hindi na kinakailangan ang isolation room.
Yes, sir.
Hindi na kinakailangan.
Pero sir, if I may, sir, these are all premises that these are all speculations that you're talking about, and of course we do understand that you're making projections. But what seems to be certain, at least as far as COMELEC is concerned, which is not a speculation as far as they're concerned, is mas malaki ang gastos nila by next year.
Well, admitted natin yan because there will be more voters. But insofar as registration is concerned, I don't think that there will be a significant increase in expenses.
Pero meron tayong inflation considering everything, all prices are going up. And apart from that, nabanggit niyo po yung democracy, yung democratic process. Sinabi rin ng mga poll watchdogs na it undermines, kasi ang epekto niyan actually kaya gustong-gusto. Sinabi nga sa amin ni Senator Mig Subiri ang dami-dami daw naglalabi sa kanyang mga barangay chairman na yun na nga, para ma-extend. Actually, yun ang effect nun You are extending the terms of these elected officials at nasisira yung proseso nung pagpipili.
You're robbing the people of the right to choose.
Well, actually, we are not robbing the people. Insofar as I am concerned and the other members of the committee, I think we have to follow the rule of the majority. You cannot have unanimity. There will always be opposition. But how far and how great will be that opposition as compared to those groups who are elected public officials who are supporting the postponement? That's the thing.
What is the guarantee? Yeah. Sir, what is the guarantee that this election will take place next year, December 2023, after it has been postponed 5 times?
Yes. Ulit-ulit.
Parang eto na naman tayo, sir. Parang, hindi na mangyayari ito. Tumanda na nga yung mga SK officials. Hindi na sila representative of the youth. Many of them. I mean, I guess the point is, how committed is Congress to these elections? It doesn't look like they're committed to it. It's so not, I mean, it's so dispensable. That's the word, no? Parang, huwag na yan. Ano ba naman yan? Nililiit natin yung grassroots level, di ba, ng election and the people's right to choose their leaders. That's at least what the, those against postponement are saying.
The right to choose will never be taken. It will be merely suspended for a while.
Well, sir, yes, that's true,
But
sir.
that
That's
while
one
has
way of
become
looking
so
at it.
long.
That's one way of looking. Pero sir, look at it this way, sir.
Yung mga tauhan.
If you postpone it and postpone it, well, a suspension, an indefinite suspension is basically, is, yun na yung epekto nun.
Cancellation.
Extension yan, term extension. Even in our Constitution, the Constitution frowns upon
Yes.
any term extension. Kasi,
There is no
elections
Just a moment. There is no prohibition for term extension of barangay officials under the Constitution. Otherwise, if there will be a prohibition, you cannot expect us to postpone or enact a law which would be in direct violation of the mandate of the Constitution. The prohibition applies only to the higher officers, but not to the barangay. And perhaps you can ask the reason why barangay officials were not included in the prohibition. That I really do not know.
Well, which goes back to the heart of democracy being available to the people at the lowest levels. Diba?
No,
Barangay
exactly.
being the most basic political unit. Diba?
Let me state, we have a representative form of government. The congressmen are actually the representatives of the people. Whenever they decide a particular issue, they are not deciding it in their personal capacity, but actually as representative of the people. On the other hand, if their constituents feel that the decision of their congressman is not in accordance with the rule of the majority, then they can show their sentiment against him by not voting to that congressman in the succeeding election. And that is the essence of democracy.
Well, sir, yeah, that is true, sir, technically, but you're talking about 2025, and we're the 2025 midterm elections, while we are talking about 2022 and 2023, which is, of course, 2 years before the midterm elections. I mean, I don't understand your point of view. You do represent a constituency, and we respect that po. I think the question that's being raised by everybody is, people, by the nature of democracy, should have the opportunity to choose every so often their leaders as stated by law and the Constitution. And we understand your point po na Congress still has the authority to postpone the barangay elections. I don't think naman there's a question as to the legality. The question, I think, from everybody's point of view is, should it be done, and should the people, should the general public be deprived of the chance to finally, after so many delays, cast their vote as to who will lead their village?
Well, according to Chairman Garcia, he recognizes that this issue is a political question. And definitely, whatever would be the decision of Congress, even the courts cannot intervene. Hindi naman namin masasabi na ito ang gusto ng ilang gusto ng ating mamamayan, but we cannot disregard these groups who are also stating that they are in favor for the postponement of the elections.
Okay. Well, ito lang, another point of view, at least from based on our interviews, no, sir. There were many complaints that were raised during the pandemic, especially in regard to the administering of the ayuda. And this was where, in effect, where the rubber kind of like met the road, in the sense of it was the barangay leaders that were actually implementing decisions from the very, very top. And there were many who failed that test. And this would have been a chance for the electorate, again, from the lowest levels of democracy, to say, hey, we got to change our barangay leaders. They just did not perform during the last, diba? Parang you're asking them now to grin and bear it for another year and a half. Is that fair?
Well, actually, the people must be vigilant in their rights. if they feel that their barangay captains are doing something which is illegal or constitute an omission in the performance of their duties, notwithstanding that there is no scheduled election, they can take the appropriate action. They can file a case administratively, they can prosecute criminally, they can take the complaint before the DILP. So in other words, kung sinasabi ng ating mga kababayan, itong kapitan namin, hindi nagtrabaho during the pandemic, lahat ng pag-ayuda ay hindi inastos. Why wait for the elections? Bakit hindi pa ngayon inibanda na nila yung kapitan so that all the other barangay captains will have the possibility or will be enlightened that in the event that they will not be performing their duties, they would be liable criminally, administratively. But the trouble is that, sinasabi natin, korap yung aming barangay captain, siya ang gumagamit ng pondo, pero hindi naman tayo nagdidemanda. We are not asserting our rights. Do we mean to say that we have to wait for the elections and our only purpose was to change him in order to discipline him? Suppose he still runs. Will that solve the problem? Still, it will not solve. Kung ang sinasabi natin, yung incompetence ng ating mga barangay officials. Sa akin, if there is already a damage done by the barangay captains, do not wait for revenge in the election. File the appropriate cases right now.
Mabuti yung kami criminal offense, Congressman. Paano kung incompetent lang? Wala namang kaso for incompetence.
Well, ang sinasabi nga natin, kung incompetence, there might be complete ignorance of the law and they might be also held liable. Pangalawa, kahit naman sa election code, kahit sa presidente, hindi naman nakalagay that the candidate must be competent. It was never mentioned there. Kaya mahirap nating sabihin, incompetence is a ground for disciplinary action.
Kaya nga, but it's a ground for...
Yes.
It's a ground for losing in elections, di ba? Kaya nga we have to refresh
That's why,
the
yeah.
mandate every 3 years, not every 5 years. Diba?
That's the easiest, cheapest way to take revenge, to use your words. Diba? Ganyan ka pala, hindi na kita iboboto. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, that's the right of the elected.
Participating in elections so many times. I have been a former mayor. At tuwing darating ang barangay elections, sinasabi ng ilan naming kababayan, kung Mayor PD, itong kapitan namin hindi na mananalo, halos lahat ng tao ay galit. Unfortunately, when the counting is over, that barangay captain is still win. Because it is only through elections that we can determine what is the sentiment of our people.
Kaya nga, di mag-eleksyon na tayo.
Yes.
Di ba?
Kaya nga, ang sinasabing natin, it's not yet the time. Hindi ibig sabihin na kung walang halalan, we cannot address the abuses of our barangay officials.
Okay. Sige, sir. Well, maraming salamat po for joining us tonight for this very spirited discussion. Si Congressman Elpidio Barzaga, ang Vice Chairman ng House Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms. Sir, maraming salamat for joining us tonight.
Okay, thank you very much also.
Thank you, Congressman.
Although we have opposing views.
Thank
And
you.
that is democracy.
But that's democracy, sir.
Hindi naman. We're just representing the opposing views.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Salamat, sir. Ingat po.
Thank you, sir.
We are starting up another conversation after the break. Keep it right here on The Chiefs. Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry warns that there might be an increase in prices of some commodities as a result of what they call the sugar shortage in the country. Let's get more details on this. We now have with us United Sugar Producers Federation President Manuel Lamata. Sir, magandang gabi and welcome to the Chiefs.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Lamata.
Thank you, sir, for joining us tonight. Sir, we had a conversation earlier in another program, The Big Story. We talked about the high prices of sugar, 100, 110 pesos per kilo. Let me start off with that po. If I understood you correctly, you indicated that that is because of an artificial shortage caused by hoarders and profiteers. Did I get you right, sir? And could we elaborate on this?
Well, the very high prices in the market now is contributed by many factors. Let us go back a bit. Yung fuel prices po, from 25 pesos that we were paying for diesel, it shot up to 85, 90 pesos. Yung fertilizers po, from 700 pesos per bag, we're now paying close to 5,000. Yung sahod po also increased, which is sapat naman mag-i-increase kasi everything is expensive. Now, couple that with the perceived shortness ng sinasabi ni SRA na makakaubusan na daw, wala nang asukal, yung tingin ko lang is when you go to the local market, sa palengke, sa retail stores, sa supermarkets, may asukal naman. It's there and you can buy any amount you want. Yun lang, sobrang mahal. Para sa akin, standard, and I'm a farmer, that is too much, way too much in what they are selling now. I don't agree with that neither.
Sir, you're selling for how much, and they are selling for how much? You as a farmer are selling how much, and going down the line?
They are buying from us wholesale last year's crop at 45 pesos per kilo. That is raw sugar po, brown sugar. Now, ipa-process nila yan, i-refine, etc., handling here, handling there. Pumapalo yan. Para sa akin lang, dapat 80 to 85 lang ang refined sa merkado. Na hindi na naman yung tama ng 100, 110. Sobra-sobra na yan.
But you're saying, sir, na wala namang actually shortage. Kasi yan ang sinasabi ni well-resigned Yusek Leocadio Sebastian. He's insisting talaga daw merong shortage and we need to import.
Yun na nga, ma'am. Ulit-ulit sa akin yung sinasabi, and then I even wrote the SRA not once, 5 times. Ipasorbe nyo na yung buong Pilipinas. Yes. All the sugar mills, all the trading houses, yung mga bodega, ipasorbe nyo. Every year, ma'am, before Serapica, the SRA used to survey 3 times a year. Before the start of harvest, middle of harvest, and post-harvest. So we will know exactly how much inventory we have. So at the end of the day, at the end of the harvest, they can decide how much is to be imported and what type of sugar. It has never happened in so many years under Serapica. Wala. So it is all inventories in their mind when they want to say there's no more sugar because they want to import. Hindi naman tama yun.
So you're saying there's no basis?
So where are they getting the figures that we need 2 million metric tons but we only ended up producing 1.8? Where did that come from? Kasi may figures silang cite. Saan ko nanggaling yan?
Okay, given naman yan, ma'am, sa tagal namin sa sugar industry, we know exactly how much we're consuming. Not exactly, but more or less we have a figure. It's from 160 to 180,000 metric tons of sugar every month. That is the consumption po. So in 1 year po, you have your 2 million tons sa 12 months. So that is the basis po. So whatever your production there, kung kapos ka dyan, that is what you should import.
So do you agree that they're short by 200,000 tons? Kasi in effect, they're saying there's only 1.8. That's why they need to import the 200,000 metric tons at least, or 300, which is what they plan to do.
Yun na nga, ma'am. It is so hard, ma'am. Look, last April of this year, Serafica asked for a Zoom meeting of all sugar leaders. Yung staff niya po, and we have this on record in the Zoom, they were projecting an increase in our sugar production for this year. All of a sudden, he's saying there's no more sugar. Shorted that. Ano ba? But what's going on? You know, there are two conflicting ideas every time there's a play. That's
Well, what do you think is going on? What do you think is going on?
Well, what I think is everything is being manipulated, from the SRA to the traders to the retailers. It's a big business for them.
Well,
So
President
there's collusion.
President Marcos has accepted the resignation of Mr. Serafica. What are your minimum expectations pag meron ng bagong SRA chief?
Unang-una, ma'am, malaking pasalamat namin kay Ginoong Presidente Bongbong and to the to the resignation of Serafica. Good riddance. It's about time you get out of the SRA. You have caused so much damage to the industry. It's unbelievable. So now moving forward, ma'am, we are urging the President to nominate the new appointee. And hopefully it should come from Negros, from our province, because we are producing 65% of the sugar output in the country. And there could be no better person to be the head there if he is not a farmer. He has to be a farmer so that he knows exactly what's going on in the industry.
But on the other hand, President Marcos has said it's possible that he might allow the importation of 150,000 metric tons of sugar in October, and today they announced that they might allow the private sector industrial users to import
directly. Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I am totally agreeable with the President that 150,000 metric tons should be imported immediately of refined sugar, not raw, not brown. And that should be dumped immediately to the palenques, to the town bayan, to the consumers, so that sugar prices will go down. It will force the retail prices to go down. At the same time, once that is done, any of these so-called hoarders, if there are any, they will start releasing their stocks because they will be scared new stocks are coming in from abroad.
What about the direct importation by industrial users? Are you in favor of that?
No, we totally disagree with that, ma'am. Why? Because these industrial users, they're forcing us to drink and eat their products, but they're buying from abroad. That is unfair. They should help and protect the local industries. They should buy Filipino, not buy China, not buy Thailand. They should buy Filipino po.
Sir, so you're saying, sir, there is no basis for, there's no basis at all to say that there is a problem in sugar supply and that you only agree to importation of refined sugar if only to force the hand of people who are hoarding the sugar.
Sir, we have to do something. Well, what is happening in the market is beyond us and it's too much. So by importing 150,000, that is not going to depress our local market, our local prices. It will not, because it's a small amount. But it will definitely bring down the retail prices, which we all agree, and we have to do it.
Mm-hmm. Pero sir, going back to the original question, you see no basis at all for concern as to the supply.
I cannot say specifically, sir, because there is no inventory.
Yes, sir, because there's no inventory.
That is the backing of my statements. We have to have an inventory. Kasi pag may na-inventory ka, madali lang yan. Na-record mo na, ilan ba ang laman sa bodega. You know exactly what's happening. Now it's everything speculation. Everything speculation. But I still go back to my analysis. How come there is still sugar in the palenque? If they say there's a shortage, there's no more sugar, sana wala na yan, di ba? You can only see a little here, a little there, but there's sugar everywhere. So that is what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
I'm not seeing a shortage.
Yes, sir. Well, sir, I did mention a while ago, in his column today, si former Economic Planning Secretary Shelito Habito said na in the first half of the year, bumaba ng 27% yung sugarcane production because of weather disturbances last year. And you did mention na, we're not sure exactly where he got the figures, but I would suppose that you would have figures of your own, or you would have at least estimates of your own by how much ang binaba.
Yes po. As of now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, our production has gone down by 7 to 10%. That is how much the total production has gone down since last year. Now, as to Mr. Celito's figures, 27%. That is possible, sir, when you get the figures mid-year. Kasi depending on the milling process, when you start milling po, not every sugar mill is ongoing. So if you base that production for that month based on last year, there could be that drop. So maybe he got those figures there.
Some critics are saying domestic producers are too protected and you need to boost your productivity. Do you agree with that observation? And what can be done to boost domestic production of sugar?
Well, unang-una, ma'am, the government should revisit the efficiency of our sugar mills. Some of them, ma'am, are 100 years old, and some of them have not been fixed. So efficiency-wise, personally, and I'm sure it's correct, 99% of all sugar mills are below international standards when it comes to efficiency, when it comes to extracting sugar from our sugarcane. So lugi kami, ma'am. Kami mga farmers, lugi kami. Halimbawa, we send 1 truck of sugarcane into the sugar mill. If the efficiency is below standard, this is just an example, okay? Let's say 10 bags of sugar come out of that truck. If that sugar mill were internationally standard, it could come out to 12 or 15 bags. So malaking diferensya. So just by that, ma'am, we could increase our production. Second,
Yes, please.
second, ma'am, there are mills, still sugar mills, that their sharing po are way below the standards. When I say sharing po, when I bring my truck into the sugar mill, dapat ang labas ng product dyan, 70% will go to me and 30% will go to the mill for their processing fee. Okay? Right now po, ma'am, it's 65-35. Again, lugi na naman ang
Farmer.
And you're talking of hundreds of millions here. Huh? This is not small potatoes. It's big money po. And grabe, especially the mills in Bukidnon. They're really castigating the farmers there, ma'am. Very low.
We should put pressure on the millers to up their game. I mean, to be more efficient.
SRA dapat yun, ma'am. That is the job of the SRA. But then, anong magawa namin? Kakampi to si X, si Rafika, kakampi sa mga millers. Eh wala, pa tayo mga farmers. Dapat, ma'am, the SRA administrator has to be neutral. He has to work for everybody, not just on one sector. Not on the butlers, not on the millers, but everybody, consumers.
Salamat, sir.
Sir, magandang gabi and welcome back to the Chiefs.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Sir, what about you? Your colleagues in business and industry, ano yung natutunugan nila as far as sugar supply is concerned? And of course, sugar prices. May problema ba talaga sa supply at sa presyo?
Well, I think there's a problem with the price, because I was checking with our purchasing group. It's about $100, 104. That's about 5,200 per bag. So that 50 kilos is about 104. No? Normally, as far back as early last year, this was at about 50 pesos per kilo. No? We use it basically for ice cream, for many of our food products. No? And almost every almost every soft drink out there, and juices and ice cream and milk and all of that contains sugar. So, we've been in the soft drink business. 10 years ago we sold the business already. So we've been there, and I more or less understand how it works. No? And some companies are able to hedge. No? And normally the time to buy sugar and buy forward is about January, February period. No? And so companies who unlock in the price so that there's no volatility, they're able to do that more or less in January, February. No? But I was just surprised to see that sugar prices have gone up this much. No? I don't see any reason why it should. And I also agreed with President Marcos's point, no, whereby he has to protect both groups, no, both the farmers and the consumers, and especially when importation comes in right smack into the harvest season, then it could really affect, many things. But now with sugar prices this high, I think the move to bring half of the 300,000 tons, I think is the right move to be able to tame down prices, because sugar at this level is going to also affect the consumers. No?
There was also an announcement today that you might be allowed to directly import sugar, which is being opposed, of course, by the domestic producers. What do you think of that?
I did hear that. I mean, anybody can import sugar?
Yes, directly import. Malacanang is considering allowing industrial users to directly import sugar.
Within the allocation, I guess, of 150,000, right? Or even beyond that.
No, I think it's.
Yeah, they're studying it. Yeah, that they're approving about 150,000.
Yeah.
And to allow companies to directly import.
Yes.
That is I think the right way, so that if the soft drink companies which use a lot of, at that time we were in that business, we use a lot of sugar in our soft drinks. You can at least isolate them from the market by them directly importing the sugar, no? So that because when they come into the market, then especially right now, then it will make the supply situation worse, no? So the key here is to really allow the importation at this point in time, because sugar is at a very high level, and then hold back and see if sugar prices will come down, no? Because normally, in some companies, what we want to do is we hedge, no? And that's a normal practice, and you buy from a trader that can honor that hedge for at least the next 6 to 8 months, no? So some companies do that. Sometimes you are able to manage that steady price because of that hedge, and sometimes you make the wrong call, no? So with sugar prices at these levels of 5,200 or thereabouts, nobody is going to hedge forward next year, no? So most companies, not all, no, not all, because the trust factor here has to be very high between both trader and the customer, no? But yes, I think the government is doing the right thing. They're allowing at least half of that to be imported. And I think that will tame down the prices of sugar and not affect drastically, the negotios of our small farmers. And these are the people that we also have to protect, no? Our micro farmers, especially in the sugar sector. No?
What can you say about what Mr. Lamata earlier brought up in regard to the millers? I mean, to the inefficiency of many of these sugar mills, and that if the raw sugar that they brought to the mills were brought to an internationally standard kind of milling, that they would probably be able to squeeze out more sugar than they do now. What can be done to improve this part of the sugar industry?
Well, it's very important to have a very efficient plant. No, I mean, we were never in the sugar industry. I have relatives who've been there. We're in the flour milling business, so it's when you mill flour and we mill wheat. Sorry, you have to have a very efficient milling factory to be able to extract the most out of the wheat. In the same manner, in sugar, it's more or less the same, no. And many of these sugar centrals have antiquated equipment, no. And I have a friend, I just won't mention his name, and they modernized their plant, no, their sugar central, and they are very efficient right now, and they're low-cost producers. So yes, I believe that some millers have strengthened and improved their equipments to be able to yield and be more efficient. And of course, they can be low-cost producers of sugar. And I think that is true for any business. No?
Well, sir,
What can be done? Oo. Anong pwedeng gawin doon, sir? Is that a private enterprise, a private sector enterprise, or should government step in, perhaps? Of course, ideally, it's the SRA, but we have also seen how the SRA has been largely unable to push these sugar mills to bump up their standards.
Well, competition actually drives people to, be more efficient. No? And if prices are, margins are high, despite their inefficiencies, then they still will make money. But in a very competitive atmosphere, it forces everybody to be more efficient. No? So how competitive is the sugar sector? I believe it is competitive. Maybe there are some who are not operating at good profitable levels and have a hard time securing loans from the bank to be able to invest and improve their equipments, because the amount in investments in these equipments are not cheap. No? So I think by and large, I would say most most sugar mills have already have been upgraded. No? And those who will not do so will suffer the consequences of now maybe at 5,000, everybody will make money, even the most inefficient sugar central. But when those prices go down back to what I think they should be in the 2,000 level, and before I remember it's below 2,000 even. No? So over time, the prices of sugar has also gone up.
Well, Mr. Lamata also told us in the case of the 150,000 metric ton importation, they would prefer that this goes to the retail sector instead of to industrial users, just to protect the sugarcane farmers. What do you think of that?
Well, possible. Maybe what they can do is half of it goes to the soft drink people, the industrial users, and half of it can go to, as he said, no, the retailers. No? So maybe it's a balance so that all interests are, protected.
Well, he's asking the business groups to support domestic production. That's what he told us anyway.
No. Yes, I agree. I think we should try to support domestic production. But of course, it's very important that domestic production has to also be efficient. No, we cannot support a sector that is going to be inefficient, because at the end of the day, the consumers have to get a fair price. If we are going to be in business and I don't repair my equipment and I produce my products at the high cost, should the consumers pay for my inefficiency? That's why competition is important. It brings about the best in all of us.
So at the same time, Mr. Lamata was saying that there is no basis that they can see so far for a supply problem of sugar. But at the same time, he's also saying there is no basis for the high prices of sugar, at least not at their current levels right now. He was also indicating that somebody's making money out of this. There are some people who are profiteering, who are hoarding as well.
Hoarding.
Just to drive the prices up. What do you see, sir? What do you hear?
Well, it's a normal reaction sometimes when prices are going up that people hold back. No, it doesn't mean that they're really holding, they're just holding back. And you normally see that when prices go down, people start to dump, no? So that's the mentality of most, no? And it's unusual, no, that we see prices at these levels. And I think maybe because the market saw that there will be no importation, and so somehow there's a natural tendency for people to hold back, no? So I think now with the announcement of importation, you will see that these prices gradually will start to go down.
Okay. Well, sir, actually, I was wondering about whether or not there is whether or not you see the need to crack down on these people who are well, apparently are making money out of it. Kasi ang taas nga naman ng presyo. And going back to the earlier question, do you see any problem with supply? Parang wala rin naman. So it's an unusually high price, and there does not appear to be a shortage.
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, I think they should start to investigate, move out and check the warehouses. But I think what's really important is that with the current situation right now, the president is correct. Just don't import the whole amount. Let's import half of that, no? And let's see what happens. And I believe that sugar prices will temper down. And moving forward, I think if they would allow importation, let's do it before the harvest season. And normally that was the case, at least during our time when we were really buying a lot of sugar.
Do you think that this spate of resignations at the SRA will redound to something good, or at least better for the industry?
I don't know. I think at this point in time, I think a good plan on what has to be done is when do we allow importation? Maybe find out what really went wrong here, because the jump is just so huge. No? I mean, that was only when we last buy sugar. That was about June. No? That was still at about 2,500. No? From that point, I was surprised to see it creep up so fast, and we're now at this level. No? And definitely the consumers will really be seriously affected. So I guess it's a challenge, no, even as an agricultural secretary, to really measure the demand and supply, no, and that's the challenge in this in the agri sector. But hopefully, the President Marcos has at least managed to hold part of it off and do it gradually, no, and if with the 150,000 tons to come in will not even bring down the prices of sugar, then there must be something wrong.
Well, in the meantime, how are you coping by way of pricing of your products, your food products?
Well, the same manner with wheat. No, I mean, we've actually hedged out till the end of the year. Now, unfortunately, wheat prices started to come down. So when you hedge, you take a risk. No. But we didn't want the prices to go any further. Now, wheat has come down, and we will take a hit because we will be using expensive wheat, and of course, our competitors who may have not hedged will be at advantage. But no, that's market forces. In the same manner, I mean, people also hedge out their sugar requirements, no, for the year, and normally they do it January, February, March, that period, not during the harvest season. So you hedge out at a certain price, and hopefully that the person you hedged with, the trader, will continue to deliver that price with that committed time frame, with, let's say, within 6 months or within 1 year, staggered delivery. No? So that's how some of big companies work out. No? So they don't want to take the risk. No? They pass on the risk to the trader. No? So this is how things work. No?
So we're not going to see a significant risk in the prices of soft drinks, for example, and ice cream.
Well, with the ice cream naman, yes, that's not our major cost. Of course, we use sugar, but most of that is milk. No? So, and we definitely want to maintain prices. And it's not only sugar that has gone up. No? A lot of these commodities have gone up and has started to come down. No? So sometimes we make mistakes. No? We hedge out because of the fear of the Russia-Ukraine war could have gone long, but now it seems that it's many commodities are starting to taper off, which is good for the consumers and maybe bad for those who have hedged out a little longer. No? But that's part of being an entrepreneur. No? You take this risk, and some people just have to live with those consequences. Sometimes you will make a lot of money if you are at least able to hedge out properly. No? So this is what business is all about. And what is important is that we are conscious about our consumers. No? We want to give them good products that we make at the most reasonable price. No? And that's essential. And many of us are very conscious on the commodities that we buy. No?
Okay, maraming salamat. Go Negosyo founder Joey Concepcion, sir. Maraming salamat for joining us tonight.
Thank you all. Salamat rin.
Thank you,
Ingat
sir.
po. And that's it for the Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. I'm Ed Lingao.
I'm Mami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Luchi Cruz-Valdes of News 5.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.